So Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the most widely beloved and most talked about shows to have ever been created. Hell, I myself have rewatched and talked about it more times than I care to remember. Its success is honestly mind-blowing and incredibly deserved, because what very few realize is that during the early 2000s when it was released, it was actually an incredible risk for not only the creators of the show, but for anyone who invested time or money into it. Because a show like this one was completely outside the norm for that time. For you see, Avatar: The Last Airbender, a kid's cartoon, touches on subjects that most R-rated TV shows would shy away from even today. We had genocide, child abuse, war, and of course the loss of family and friends. Themes that, while making for an incredible story, aren't something you'd normally find in a kids show on Nickelodeon after you return from a long day of school. And the fact that we were and are still so affected by these themes is a testament to the writer's skill. Because as kids, most of us just watched the show for nothing more than flashy lights and big fights. Hell, that's one of the biggest reasons for the success around Marvel and shonen anime. Because ultimately that's what kids desire. The big flashy fight scenes with less than impactful storyline moments. We as kids just want to sit around, laugh, and reenact our favourite powers and fights with our friends. We never really absorb anything in the way of emotional impact or understanding on why these certain storylines actually took place the way they did. Like, I still remember watching Star Wars in my youth and reenacting the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, in the moment I never actually understood the weight of that fight. I just kinda liked the use of high ground and saw the clashing of swords as a super cool bout between rivals. I never realized that with every swing we were edging closer to what would essentially be a brother killing his own younger brother. Someone he had essentially raised from a boy to a man. You see, somehow with Star Wars being as great as it was, it never actually hit me. At least not in the same way that Avatar: The Last Airbender did. Which honestly, to me, is incredibly surprising. For you see, Avatar has arguably less emotional weight to it than the likes of Star Wars or Avengers. It is at its core just a kid's cartoon. So why is it that I and many of you still see it as one of the most emotional stories to have ever been created? Why does the subtle sadness of Aang and the other characters hit us so deeply? Well, you see, in my opinion, it's this kids show disguise that it takes on that almost forces you to lower your guard and open yourself up to the emotional impact that is just awaiting for you around the next corner. And this actually happens time and time again throughout all of Avatar, with its genius use of comedic side stories that follow closely behind devastating and shocking moments. Like, the most perfect example of this can be seen in the episode The Desert, an episode that followed after the heartbreaking moment of Appa's capture by the Sandbenders. For you see, in this episode we have a devastated Aang who is struggling to move past what just occurred with his dear friend. He is sad and angry, unmotivated and depressed. He in that moment wants nothing more than revenge on the Sandbenders, something that highlights an internal struggle with him being both the Avatar and a pacifist nomad. But even aside from this being one of the darkest moments in the entirety of the story, we are still presented with moments like these.
Drink cactus juice. It'll quench ya.
So you see, even when the show is at its darkest point, we still have the likes of Sokka making the mood a little bit more bearable. And you see, with the episode jumping from Aang and his struggles with loss to Sokka and him struggling just to survive, it clears the air of all the surrounding tension, so that when we are hit with that final climax, we are left completely shocked and broken. It's such a skillfully crafted work of art that has honestly left me and many of you speechless. But now it should also be noted that this isn't the only way to make emotion transcend television. It's just one of many. You don't actually need the use of comedy or guard dropping to make a scene more impactful. It's just Avatar's format. And given that this is an Avatar video, it's just one that we are going to highlight today. But now there is also one other thing about the final climax that I'd just like to point out, and how it displays one's emotion in a way that words never could. It's that moment where Aang, the fun-loving and peaceful boy, changes into the Avatar state and tries to kill anyone who stands in his way. This moment where emotion is heightened to a never before seen degree is stopped by the mother of the team, Katara, with nothing more than a simple, exhausted look of plea. For in that moment, she who would normally have a speech on hope has absolutely nothing to say. She knows that no words can reach him in this moment. Nothing she could ever say is going to make the pain disappear. All she can actually do is offer out a hand and be there for him in his time of need. It's this simple but brilliant use of emotion that makes us get so invested into the story and the characters within it. Because while I can sit and talk about the brilliance of each individual episode, we must also understand that any good show is only made that way because of the right cast. The characters and their story are ultimately why we love Avatar. That realistic vulnerability and personal growth that the story takes them on establishes everything we both need and want to know about the cast of characters. For you see, Avatar did such a great job in establishing them that when we witness even the slightest change in their personality, we are left almost awestruck by what has taken place. Like, Avatar has great fight scenes and flashy effects, but I have found throughout my many times rewatching the series that there is something much more profound about it. It has lessons. For you see, the beauty of this story, in my humble opinion, comes from finding that relatable character or storyline and then witnessing how the team overcomes it and are made stronger from it. And this is of course seen a number of times in the series with characters like Zuko, who is on a journey of acceptance and overcoming his childhood abuse. But it is also seen with characters like Azula, Aang, Katara, and almost every other character along the way. Like Azula, while she never really got to reach the acceptance side of her trauma, she still taught us that seeking perfection will only lead to suffering and loneliness. And Aang, on the other hand, who had the weight of the world on his back, taught us that no matter the responsibility, we always have those around us that, if we are willing to allow them in, may also assist us in carrying that load. And then with the likes of Katara, when she was faced with her goal on revenge, ultimately decided not to become the dark version of who she could be. She became more than her past trauma, teaching us that we can also become more than our past mistakes and regrets. Like, in my opinion, what makes a moment in a story either a heartwarming or a heartbreaking one is the response that the characters themselves give. Do they break from that moment, learn from it, or become something less or more because of it? How they respond tells its own story, because while Avatar at its core is a coming-of-age story about a boy stopping a war, it is also several other smaller stories at the very same time. Smaller stories that also, in my opinion, are far more interesting than the one about stopping the Fire Nation from complete world domination. You see, it is all of these points rolled into one that makes Avatar the great series that we all know it to be. And that is also why we continue to return to it time and time again. Because Avatar is a timeless masterpiece. One that you can watch as a boy, a girl, a man, or a woman. One that no matter who, what, where you come from, can always find something or someone within it to relate to or learn from. But now at this point, I feel as though I'm just rambling on. So let's just end the video here. If you enjoyed it at all and would want to see more video essay or discussion kind of content like this from me in the future, then please like the video and consider subscribing, so as to join us on the push for 100k. We are inching ever closer to it day by day, and it would mean a lot to me if you helped us get there. But with all that said, I'm out. Have a great rest of your day, and peace.